Good afternoon. Yeah. So it's the 15th of April 2020. Still on furlough from work. Thought I'd get a vid out. Yeah. So yes, still practicing my 4E, education, exercise, which I'm doing now, environment. Tidied up my lounge today, and if you've ever been round to my house or you know me at all, you'll know that it was a pigsty. So yeah, so tidied and swept the lounge, did the washing up, got the laundry done, went shopping, another bit of exercise because I had to ruck back with about 10-15 kilos of stuff. So yeah, feeling pretty good because it's before 1 o'clock and I got all that stuff done in the morning. And yeah, just leaving my 3D printer to take care of business, running off some Chinese lucky cats for Tilda over in Australia, and then hopefully they'll be done before the last call for post. So yes, and I had to dick around with my 3D printer and relearn it because I haven't used it in months. But given that I have, it might spark a bit more creativity since it seems to be printing fine. So fingers crossed, I end up with some product to send out. And I am out of shape. So the radio project Progressive, quite impressively. Today I put in an offer that was accepted for a Yaesu, Y-A-E-S-U, FT101 Z, which is pretty cool. That was a B. B's are good. Yeah, so there's a reason that I've been going for the FT101. Because it's essentially the Land Rover of radios. We managed to stumble across it, and it's nearly all bands. I think it starts at 10 metres and goes all the way up to 160 metres of broadcast, and what that means, and it will broadcast at about 200 watts illegally in my case, but yeah, it's a start. By the capability that you want for tomorrow. So yeah, so that's a cool thing. So yeah, and the other great thing about it is it's an all-in-one box. So yes, so it's got its own power supply. You can plug straight into the mains, and it's got all the things that you want from it. It's got a Morse key port, it's got a microphone port, it's got all sorts of stuff. I don't know whether it comes with a microphone or a power lead, but we shall see. So the next thing to get, obviously, I get a SWR lead, a SWR box, SWR, standing wave reflex. That helps you tune in your antenna and find out that you've got everything hooked up right. And an antenna, but I shall defer to Rembimon as far as the antenna goes. But it's all good stuff. So yes, and the reason I bought it ahead of time before we even start getting into it is I don't know whether that particular model is going to be available. The model I got was second hand, obviously. If you're buying an FT101, they're all second hand, they're not making them anymore. But they have been in use since about 1972, and the Z version was probably about early 80s. So it's a 40-year-old piece of kit. So fingers crossed that it works. But I didn't know how long that model would be up for or available for. And the reason I chose the Z model is it's got a few improvements. Oh, I'm out of shape. That make it a slightly better deal. It's got a digital display for the frequency that you're on, which is great, instead of a little dial, which can be fairly imprecise. Wow, it was pretty steep. It was a brisk steep climb. Yeah. So that's bought. Should receive it next week. Maybe we need to start the Rangers with Radios subnet of the culture. Yeah. The other things I want to get for it are an SWR meter and an antenna and a balun. No, sorry, not a balun, a dummy load. Whew. So if I order the dummy load with the to arrive in chain with the radio, I can at least turn it on without damaging it, because you should never ever turn a radio on unless you've got some kind of antenna fixed, because you're just asking for a static hit that can damage the transceiver. And even though it's a dirt cheap radio for what it does, no sense in killing it on day one. So I think I'll probably go home and order a SWR meter with a balun, with a dummy load. In case you're wondering, a balun is a key part of any antenna. So yes, so I may get to a point where I'm able to broadcast, well, to contact and work a radio contact with Rembimon over in Leeds, which is the other side of the Pennine Hills from me. So yeah, it's all good. It's a lovely day, lovely weather, proper t-shirt weather. So yeah, and I will of course be ordering another radio again next month, or the month after, to get one of those SSB receivers, and maybe I can go out for a nice walk and see if I can pick up the radio when the lockdown's lifted. So, hope you're all coping well with whatever levels of isolation you've got. But to me, the weird thing is I'm a bit introverted, so mostly it's been my life as normal, with the exception that I'm not going to work. And if you do work with me or near me, or you watch this channel, yeah, hope you're doing okay. Hope everybody's doing okay, and that all the people you care about are okay. I mean, statistically they should be, but a lot of people have caught this thing. But as a percentage of Earth's population, it's just not very high. You know, we'll blow through 2 million cases today, easily. Probably by the time I get home. I haven't checked it since early this morning. So yeah, not that I'm trying not to do that, but can't help it. So yeah, I've got a few comments regarding software-defined radios, and that's a plan going down the road. A plan to get a few software-defined radio to act as a listening post using the same antenna that me and Rembimon will be using for our HF radios. So you leave the radio off, listen in using the software-defined radio and the big old antenna, and then when you find something interesting or you want to make a contact, you switch the transceiver on and do it. The reason I haven't talked about SDRs really is they're good for receiving, but generally have extremely low power for transmission. And the trick is to be able to talk to people. Oh, hold on. Sorry, well, SDRs, yeah, you wouldn't be able to transmit worth a damn using a base SDR unless you then fed it into a whopping greatly amplifier. So the SDR and the amplifier would cost you about 700 or 800 quid if you were going to get a decent one with all bands. So yeah, you still have to buy an aerial. and that would be bigger than our whole project budget, you know, of about 500 quid. I think I've saved myself a little bit off that 500 quid, but yeah. So we should be able to talk to people on 2 meters 70 centimeters within range of line of sight, because that's what VHF and UHF are. They're pretty much line of sight, which is why they're used as low power radios on the marine bands. Yes, we're not using marine radios because they're super expensive. And they're only line of sight, and you can replace the whole thing with a Baofeng essentially. Although Yaesu have brought out a new model that runs to about $75 or about 60 quid, which has most of the features of the Baofeng but higher quality. So if you're thinking about buying a Baofeng UV5R and spending 25 quid, it might be worth musing on whether it's worth the extra 30 quid or $40 to buy the Yaesu one instead. They're supposed to be a lot better. And I think they have a beacon feature which is pretty nice. So if you're tied in on a certain frequency, you set a frequency to a beacon frequency, and it'll harass you once you move out of range. So, and I don't think the Baofeng does that. If I'm wrong, do let me know in the comments. So yeah, SDR radios, that was where I was going before I knew a little bit more, and I started looking at the prices of the things. Now fair enough, you might be able to get another one, an SDR radio cheaper, second hand, and if you can, let us know in the comments. But the nice thing about the FT101, the Yaesu, is they're relatively cheap, although it hurt my wallet this month, and they're, you know, relatively repairable. So there are parts available. It is all solid state because it's from the 1980s and the 1970s, and yeah, they do the job and you can fix them. And there's plenty of YouTube videos out online that will show you how to fix it. The manuals are very comprehensive and they're all available as PDFs. So it's like, you know, another bit of money saved there. Yeah. And did I mention you can fix them? So you can replace blown out capacitors and stuff like that. And you can do all sorts of things. And they're built like tanks. So they'll survive an awful lot. You know, they're so survivable that they became a big thing in Australia particularly, because a lot of people in Australia in the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s were amateur radio users, quite famously with their remote education system that they had, the School of the Air, where you'd have a teacher and you'd have various students sitting out there talking in and being part of the class, which must have been nice for the teachers because, you know, push to talk, you know, it's a much better deal. Ah, we've reached the end of the line as far as this bit, so I'm going to go back. So yeah, so SDR radios maybe down the line when they're a lot cheaper. The other part of the SDR radio thing, as in we are going to get one, is there's a hack RF box that you can get from Amazon. You can plug into a laptop or a desktop machine and use that with the HF radio antenna using a switch box, or just disconnecting it and connecting it up, and that comes in at 100 quid because it uses a lot of the components in your laptop. So it's a receiver box, you know, sort of like an SDR, except you don't transmit, and it will receive on all frequencies. So you would have a home base, highly graphical user interface piece of software that communicates with that box and allows you control that box and scan through the frequencies as a receiver. And the reason we've added that, but that's some way down the road, is so that you could actually have a good all bands receiver, which means that you could listen in on air traffic control, you know, any in the clear radio services that are out there, including normal radio stations. That's a kind of cool thing. So yeah, so the Hack RF box, if you look them up on Amazon, we're looking at a bundle that costs about 95 quid, that comes with all the connectors, A couple of little antennas which I don't think I'll be using, except if I'm very, very bored. And yeah, that would be a good receiver. I mean, you could just take a long old piece of multi-strand copper wire and build yourself a dipole and blue tack it into the ceiling of whichever room that you're in, so you could actually improve your reception without having to use the exterior aerial that you'd be using for your HF radio, and then just sit and watch. It's well worth watching a few YouTube channels on the subject of SDR or the Hack RF box. So yes, so the people that responded with comments about SDR radios were on the money. I think we'll eventually get one, but a standalone SDR box is probably not something that we're going to go for. Yeah. So yes, lots of cool stuff, and my timeline's been accelerated slightly because I just really want to get that particular model, and it was a good price, and I put in an offer, and the seller agreed to pay postage, which was annoying because, you know, I'm in Manchester too. You know, if I was him, I would jump in my car and deliver it and pretend that I was a delivery person. You know. But yeah, I'm only up the road. So yeah, we'll see when that turns up. And hopefully it's working. Otherwise I've spent 200 quid on an electronics project. Yeah. So yes, lots of things in the pipeline. The studio tidying progresses apace. Hoping to do a bit more on that today. And I'll be restarting the Fallout 4 culture playthrough, because one of the things I got myself is a little webcam, so I can have a little picture of me in the top, and then I can use that with OBS. So it's proper nice. So yeah, lots to do, you know. So environment, exercise, education, and what was the other one? Entertainment. Watched a few episodes of classic Star Trek today, and I was pretty surprised to find there was some that I hadn't watched. So that was cool. So I'm going through those slowly as I'm wandering the interwebs looking for kit. You know, it'd be fun to be playing with, you know. If I can get a shortwave radio up and running before we go back, that'd be amazing. So yeah, I just don't know, you know, whether I can get an Invis antenna and patch it out to, I could probably test it with Rembimon, you know, just do the whole thing, and just, he's got an SSB receiver, he could sit at 40 meters or 80 meters and tell me via Discord whether he's receiving me, which would be a thing. At least get that much of it done. And if he's sorting out a radio his end, maybe early next month we'll have functional radios. We can start learning all about it. But if you are interested, probably your first 20 quid, or if you can find them as PDFs, if you live in the UK, the RSGB Foundation, Intermediate and full license courses, which they do as books. I think it probably won't cost you more than about 20 quid to get all three. As far as I know, Kevin is a geek is looking into taking his license, which would be cool, and then maybe we can get some kind of reception and some kind of UK net. And then after that, the big thing is seeing if we can go international. So I don't know if there's anybody out there in America attached to this that we could test international transmission, but that would be groovy as anything. I'm sure we can sort out some kind of pre-arranged time to do an equipment check and just punch across. And that would be super interesting, especially with FT101s. They are fun. You know. So yeah, things continue apace. And yeah, software-defined radio will be a factor at some point. I I gather it's going to be easier to dial stuff in, easier to understand things. Oh. But yeah, so it may well be easier to do the reception on software-defined radio, but given the cost of an HK data, I think it's an 808, being 60 quid, if you're just going to, if all you're going to do is receive, there's an actual radio that can do reception is probably better value for money. But we'll test all that and we'll find out. And we shall see. We'll see what we can get done. So yeah, lots and lots to think about and do. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be a really fascinating time, especially in these days of lockdown. You've got to love, infrastructure-free communications. So yeah, so maybe we can even patch some audio in and do a live stream onto YouTube. And you've got all kinds of options, as long as we're not breaking any regulations. So yeah, maybe we can transmit out at 10 watts, which is your foundation license limit. And if we can broadcast out at 10 watts and you can set up an HK data 808 to receive, and then you can transmit back and the other person can use their HK 808 to receive. I don't know whether that's going to be viable. So yes, so you could even legally do it and just use the HK 808 as the powerful receiver, if that's possible. So yeah, there may be a way around it. Maybe a way of transmitting Morse, or definitely worth finding a frequency that nobody likes on CW and just transmit the CW pulse. Get that round the world. So yeah, so we've got a few things like trying to print a comfortable CW key. So I'm sure we can 3D print something like that. It wouldn't take too much research to do it. So yeah. I need a stick for my cat. Yeah, that'll do. Need to make a cat toy. Cat's getting chubby, I'm getting chubby. So yeah. So yeah. Lots and lots of things to do. Lots of stuff for me to do today. I like to get the studio set up so I can start recording a new Fallout series with my ugly mug in the corner, in good audio quality. So yeah, I think we're doing all right. So I'll do a few test recordings today and a lot more tidying, and I think we're going to leave it there. So thanks for watching, do take care. Look at the colour of the sky, and remember, where am I going, who's coming with me? Never mess up that order. See ya.